Right now, Bob Iger is not in a good spot. We're going to be explaining everything about what's going on between himself, the Disney board, the executives, and everything happening with the Dial of Destiny's box office results so far that have been disastrous, not just for Disney, but also for Bob Iger as an individual and his role as CEO. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And well, let's get right into exactly what's happening with not just Disney but also Lucasfilm. Now, there's a thing that a lot of people like to go by is that every time Disney puts out a lot of garbage material as the Dial of Destiny, in my opinion, that's my opinion, by the way, for those of you that like the Dial of Destiny, hey, that's on you, that's your opinion. But I know a lot of people in my social circle and their social circles that have heavily disliked this film, calling it flat, boring, drawn out, and just spiritless, soulless. I mean, the words are just infinite. But when we look at the Dial of Destiny specifically and what's going on with Bob Iger, this is where things begin to get very alarming for himself and for Disney's image. Now, we already dealt with Elemental as a massive fail on their end, The Little Mermaid not meeting their expectations box office-wise and fan reception-wise, mind you. And on top of that, to really top the list here, the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel closing by this September is also another epic failure on their end. However, alright, there lies a bigger issue here, is that with Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, having so many fails consistently with Elemental, Little Mermaid, Galactic Star Cruiser, etc., the failure he's dealing with now is INDY 5s. One big development happening behind the scenes is that box office returns coming in far lower than expected, for the Disney board, of course, coming to realize that, and coming in far lower than expected for the Disney board and executives. The board is already making a proposal to get rid of Iger even before the Marvels releases in theaters, as well as Wish and The Haunted Mansion by this November, the three big ones. Initially, they wanted to wait and to see if a big film like The Marvels would succeed under Bob Iger's control. However, now the board are already seeking a replacement for Disney CEO just a couple of days into the Dial of Destiny's release. Iger is also in a phase of panic, where he is already planning to make big statements about the loss of revenue for INDY 5 that lies ahead just days before Mission Impossible drops in theaters. Now get this, Bob Iger reportedly views Tom Cruise as a major competitor, and that surprisingly this is why Kennedy was creating Star Wars Rogue Squadron as a movie by Patty Jenkins, which was going to be a Star Wars variant or competitor against Tom Cruise's Top Gun Maverick to compete against him. Now, let me stop here for 1 second there. Now, this is where things are beginning to get more apparent that Disney is in trouble. Now, sure, I know it may come across as a little unrealistic when people say, oh, Disney's losing so much money, but they are, guys. I mean, let's be honest here. You can't keep bleeding out like this. You just can't sustain that and do nothing about it. It either has to be talked about to the public, or the board has to do something about it at the very minimum, or at the very least, talk about it. And that's what's happening right now. There's a lot of talk behind closed doors between the board, the executives, etc. to get Bob Iger out as fast as possible. And they knew going in, when they replaced him with Chapek, that it wasn't really the best idea, but we all knew when Chapek was in that was all temporary, that basically meant Iger was semi-retired. I mean, look at Tom Brady as a very fine example there. Just because you're retired doesn't mean that you necessarily can't come back. So we all knew going in that Iger was coming back eventually, and he did, but now his time at Disney is going to be very shortchanged because of what's been happening with all these failures. And you know what? I can only imagine Bob Chapek right now. He's probably having the time of his life not being involved in this mess as CEO. He probably dodged a major bullet here because honestly, guys, I don't think he would have done all that much better. But going in further, this is where things begin to get more complex. Let's dive into it. Now, More on that later regarding the whole Kathleen Kennedy thing with Rogue Squadron. The board already has 3 candidates to take over IGER, but they are already looking for a 4th one that they believe is going to top all 3 to replace IGER before the new year. IGER is aware of this and is rushing to make any sort of improvements in marketing, such as with Disney's Wish, The Haunted Mansion, and of course the Marvels. Alright, so those are the 3 bigs for November. These are all November releases, and IGER is forming a new marketing plan for those 3 films. The board is eager to replace IGER now as soon as possible before those films, potentially of course becoming 3 failures in 1 month. IGER is already looking into investing more funding into the marketing as well for those films. Now, guys, I don't know about you, I don't know if you've checked out The Haunted Mansion, Wish, or the development of the Marvels, but a lot of those projects were very shaky and really don't have the best marketing plan mapped out as of right now. So they have to work on that. The other thing that's very much alarming for Bob Iger, and I'm not a supporter of Iger, by the way, just to be clear, I've always been a skeptic of him, is that he really needs to figure out this Star Wars roadmap. I mean, he really needs to. Now, the Dial of Destiny was a very big hit for him, but this Star Wars roadmap, getting delay after delay, cancellation of movies and shows, and replacing them with others, it really is not looking good on his end. You know, whether it's his fault or not, whether you want to look at it in that way, basically it's all on him. You know, that's how the general public is going to look at it like. It's all on Iger. And the board knows that somebody else needs to take control. Now, the Dial of Destiny, we've talked about this. Top Gun Maverick was a great success for Tom Cruise. People know how well he is with filmmaking. And so going in, Mission Impossible 7 is really going to top it all. You know, Mission Impossible 7 is obviously going to really just bring the whole entire thing around. It's going to diminish the box office returns for Indy 5 and everything related to it in that sense. So, look, I mean, we know that Bob Iger is frightened about this. He knows that the fans are growing more and more exhausted over Disney's low efforts into their movies and into their shows, and really just pushing specific agendas and breaking franchises, breaking fan-favorite characters. I mean, look at what they did with Luke, Han Solo, and now Indiana Jones. Don't be surprised if Alien Romulus is going to be another failure, because yes, that's another Disney thing now. Unfortunately, they may very well tarnish the Alien brand, and that's another thing that I personally am very much afraid of as well. So, yeah, going into all of this, I mean, Iger really needs to shape up, and he needs to shape up fast. Do I believe he's going to be able to do that? I don't believe so. I don't believe he's going to succeed with Marvels, maybe, and just maybe The Haunted Mansion, but I don't believe Wish is going to perform very well either. That's just my take on things. But yeah, guys, I would love to hear your take on everything related to Iger and the board. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon.